Ryan, this is a quick comparison between your lap, which was the Friday before the last race, and Jace's qualifying lap. There are three main areas. The first one is from here to here, and that's 7/10 of a second, and that is going through turn 1 all the way down to turn 3. You actually then pick up a couple of tenths through turn 3, so that's very good. And then the next problematic area is turn 5, and then we can see again you pick up time in turn 7 here, and then if we carry down you lose time in turn 10, and then picking up a little bit in the middle of turn 12. So let's look at those particular areas real quick. Some of the answers are just plain physics, that you are heavier than Jace, so I think that's enabling him to accelerate more easily. So here we are coming into turn 1, and there is a fairly significant speed differential as a result of the exit of turn 12, and having looked at this, you seem to exit at a similar speed, get onto throttle at a similar speed. I just think he's able to accelerate more than you are. What we're showing here is speed at the top, engine RPM, throttle position, brake pressure, gear, and the time comparer. And we can see from here, which is just before braking into turn 1, up to here, which is braking going into turn 3, it's actually 3/4 of a second difference. So let's see if we can see why that is. Well, the most obvious reason is right here. The apex speed is very, very different, and I saw from your race day footage that you had picked this up quite significantly. I mean, in this lap you were 75 miles an hour. I saw from the race day video that you were around 80, but you're still a couple of miles an hour down. What is noticeable is the gear, and you can see from the RPMs here that Jace is keeping the RPMs up a lot more than you. You go up into 5th gear right at the end of the straightaway, and then back down to 4th and then to 3rd. And I think this is hurting me a little bit. He's held the gear. He's held the gear in 4th, and he's right on the limit of the RPMs. He's at turn 2, but I think he's making the decision that it's not worth changing up and then changing down. And he carries more speed into the corner. What is interesting here is I think you're turning in just a fraction early. If we advance this, you're on the left, he's on the right. If I look at where you are hitting the curb, you're hitting it kind of just before where the pole is. And if we look at, I mean, the pole is in a different position as well, but you are on the curb pretty much here, which means you're going to be going across the track. Jace he never actually goes onto the curb, he's on the paint, but right at the end. So what I'd like you to focus on is turning in just a fraction later to get the car pointing down the track more. And what's interesting is on the exit, Jace lets the car go a lot wider, even though he's turned in later, which would normally make you exit more to the middle of the track. He's just put in less steering angle than you have, which means it scrubs less, he can carry more speed through there, and he is going wider because he's going faster than you. But it's quite noticeable that he lets the car come all the way over to the outside, and you on the left, there is at least a car width, if not more, and he then keeps it in pretty tight in turn 2. And again, if anything, you're in a little early here. You're meeting the curb right at the start, and he's meeting the curb kind of halfway through. And we can see on the left here, as you're getting through the corner, you're already starting to move away from the corner. Looks like the car's pushing a little bit there, and he is a lot closer to the curb. If we stop you when you're at the end of the curb, you can see there's quite a space there, and he is only just off the line. As a consequence, you're having to have more steering angle coming through here, which is going to be scrubbing speed, and we can tell that you've turned in early based on where you're meeting the curbing. Like, you are meeting the curbing right at the start, the very start. If you look to the right, Jace doesn't meet the curbing until he's well along that curbing strip. So just be careful there about not turning in too early. Because he's carried that much more speed through turn 1, that speed differential is maintained pretty much all the way down 5 miles an hour, and that's why you're losing 3/4 of a second to Jace through there. And this corner, turn 1, you can pick up so much time through there. So just turn in a little later into both 1 and 2, carry a little more speed through 1, and you'll be able to pick up some time. Not going to be a whole lot of use for you for this weekend because we're not doing turn 1, but that is the principal area where you're losing time compared to Jace. We can see from the top that there is a 4 mile an hour speed differential coming into here. Jace is carrying a little more speed into the first phase of the corner. We can see he's staying on throttle just a little longer than you are, and as a result he's having to brake just a fraction harder. As a result, he's carrying more speed into the first phase of the corner. You are losing additional time to him here, so there's a tenth and a half. But then he's braking more, and around the apex he's actually going slightly slower than you. You carry more speed through the second phase of the corner. You can see that you're actually turned in more. Your line is a lot better down here. We can't rely on these lines too much because you did not drive through the desert there. But looking at the video, but you did a really good job here. Very similar, very similar lines. You're getting it down to the curb nice and early. If anything, he's holding it in slightly more than you, but there's not a lot to tell here in terms of the difference between you two. You are just carrying more speed out of the corner, and this looks about right on the exit. Like, you're bringing it all the way out, but you're meeting the dirt pretty close to that orange cone, which is what we want to aim at. We don't want to get all the way out to the dirt too early, because otherwise you're then having to turn back. So at this point you've actually picked up time. We can see that your line is below his, so you're about a tenth of a second up coming out of here. You're doing a similar speed. You're actually 1 mile an hour up on him. RPMs are the same, but you start to lose time to him, which is what's making me think this is just physics and weight, that he is able to accelerate more in his car. You're, from the RPMs, the gears, etc., your gearing is the same. He's holding the gears a little longer here, so you're changing gear at just below 10,000. He's changing a little later, but I think where you're doing your gear changes is fine. I wouldn't worry about that too much. So he's getting back that time, and by the time you get through turn 4, you're matched. So he was quicker entering into 3, you were quicker exiting, and it's a wash. So through 3 and 4, you're level pegging. Here we are coming into turn 5, and this is the second area where you're losing time. You can see you're actually going deeper you're braking later. The braking seems to be similar pressure and similar duration. I think maybe you're braking a little more than he is, and as a result you carry more speed into the first phase of the corner, and we can see you've picked up nearly 1/10 of a second going in. But because you're staying on the brakes here deeper into the corner, he's actually carrying more speed down to the apex. You go back to throttle earlier than him, which brings your speed up, but then you're pushing wide, and we'll see on the video you have to come off the throttle. He meanwhile builds on throttle, which means he gets more speed out of the corner, and by the time you're out of there, let's have a look here, it's probably about 2/10. Yeah, so here we're 2.5 coming into turn 6, and by the time you're through turn 6, there's no magic going on here. His speed is 2 miles an hour more than yours, and he has picked up 0.3 of a second. What's interesting is that on this side of the corner, you're holding the gears longer. I don't think there's anything in there. It's just very slight differences in where you are around the track where you're making your gear changes. If we have a look at the video. Now the thing I noticed the most here is the line through here. Jace gets in tight nice and early, so here we are mid-corner, he's down on the curb, and we can see that you are still quite a lot off the curb and with a lot of steering angle. So my guess is here, because you carried that extra speed into the corner, you're now struggling to make the car turn. And we've got similar throttle pressure here, but if we look here, see, as we go around the corner, Jace is still tight in. So look here, we're like 3/4 of the way through the corner. Jace is on the curb, you can't see the curb, and you've got all this steering angle in there. So let's try and keep the car closer to the curb, which means as you exit the corner, you're going to be pointing down the track more. And I really think this is just carrying a bit less speed into the corner. I think with that extra speed and how deep you went, you just couldn't get the car turned. And as we come out of the corner, we can see you meet the curbing right at the start. Jace meets it a little bit later, and that's because he's managed to keep the car turned in a little more. If we go back, so look at the start of the corner, let's just see if you've effectively turned in early. Let's have a look here. No, I just think you're deep. You're just not getting it down to the curb. You can see here that there's a big difference. He's got it all the way down to the curb and is holding it on that curb. You are cranked all the way over, which my guess is the car is pushing. And if we just let that play out, I don't think there's anything to see in turn 6. Not really. No, if anything, again, you're a little early down there, but I'm not that concerned here. What is good is turn 7. Your turn 7 was absolutely perfect. So here we are coming into turn 7. You got your timing on this was really, really good. And you carry more speed into the corner. And this is the one corner where I noticed Jace was braking a lot harder than you. And you are all the way down on the curb. I like that. He's not quite down, and we can see as we get towards the end of the curb, he's moving across the track to the right a lot more than you are. And he never really meets that curbing. It's very late that he gets on the curbing. So I think he turned in too late there. I think you turned in just right. So don't change anything there. Let's have a look at the data there. So we can see right here, we can see that you're in tighter in the corner, that the angle of the corner is actually very similar. You're just in a little earlier than he is, but you're managing to carry 3 miles an hour more down to the apex. And I think that's just the nature of the corner. You can go through this corner much faster than people realize. And as a result, you're getting onto the full gas sooner. And even though you picked up time through the corner here, so you're a tenth up, again, he is able to accumulate speed better than you do. And I really do think this just comes down to the weight. You can see here, even though you are a tenth up coming out of the corner, you're both on full power. The revs are very similar. You can see that he's got 1 mile an hour speed more than you do. And I think that's a function of this here. He was kind of partial throttle going through the corner because he realized he overslowed the corner, so he was getting back to throttle. You're both on throttle round about the same time. Your apex speed is the same. He just accumulates speed a little more easily than you do. So the tenth of a second advantage that you had carrying the speed into the corner, by the time we get into turn 8 here, has pretty much gone. I don't think there's a lot to say about turns 8 and 9. You actually have a slightly better, tighter line through turn 9, which has enabled you to stop the bleeding and pick up a bit of extra time. Now if we look at turn 10, you are pretty much neck and neck. Your speeds are very, very similar. One thing I can see here is that he's carrying the revs a lot more. So what is noticeable here is that Jace maintains 5th gear while you go up to 6th gear, and he's right at the limit of the RPMs. So I guess he just felt it wasn't necessary to go up to 6th gear, and then he's in a lower gear coming into turn 10. So at this point he's in 4th and you're in 6th, and he's down into 3rd early on, and you're still in 4th coming through the corner, and then you change down after you've gone through the first bit. So I'm in two minds here. I actually like the way that you're doing this, carrying 4th gear into the first corner and then the change down mid corner. And we can see at the bottom it's not really affecting your time. If anything, you're picking up time here by doing that, and you're carrying marginally more speed into the corner. I think what happens is he takes a tighter line through turn 10, which opens up 11 for him, and we can see because he's already in 3rd gear, he can accelerate out of the corner more quickly. And if we look here, this is right just coming up to the apex. He's 5 miles an hour faster in turn 11, and if we look at the video, I think it's the line that's doing that. And you're both in 3rd gear here. And let's bring it up to the end here and just see what the time difference is. And the time difference is 2/10. So let's have a look at the video. So here we are coming into turn 10. As I'd mentioned, you're in 6th gear, he's actually in 4th gear. He's just changed down. He's changing down early, so he's down into 4th gear. And let's see the line here. Now in my BMW the other day, I was experimenting with this. You can actually just go straight across this corner. I'm not sure how it is going to be in the Radical, but he takes, you can see you are early on this. You're a little earlier than he is, and he's taking more curb, so he's actually got the right front wheel in the dirt pretty much here. And if we look at the angle of the cars, he's further over. So this is a similar position here. I mean, your video is just very slightly advanced, but he is further over to the right, so he's opening up 11 a lot more here. You're carrying more speed at this point of the corner, and if we just bring this forwards, you are still faster here. But if we get to a comparable position, we can see here he's pretty much over to the right side of the track, and you're, I don't know, probably half a car width over, which is tightening up 11 for you. You are still faster to this point. And let's see, very similar angle of attack, and at this point he has suddenly picked up 5 miles an hour on you, so he's just carrying more speed through here. And he's using more of the curb, so he's opened up this corner. If you can see here, he's on the curbing and you are kind of on the paint, so just get tighter to turn 11, and you can see here you're drifting away from the curbing, and he's still pretty much on it. And my guess is we will see that where you actually meet the curbing. So you meet the curbing on that blue, he meets it on the white, so he's meeting it very slightly later, so he's turning in just a fraction later by the looks of it. If we just go back to the data, so where that speed differential is different is right here, which is just on the transition from turn 10 to turn 11. He's got more RPMs. He's on throttle in between the two. Both of you have a very, very light brake. It's just a brush on the brakes. You actually stay on the brakes quite long. He has tapped the brakes. So let's try and reduce that. In fact, looking at the braking, you're actually braking quite a bit later than he is. Similar brake pressure. And so at this point, the speeds are very similar. He's actually got a little more speed because of the speed he carried in. At this point, you've got more speed, but you're staying on the brakes, and you're staying on the brakes much, much longer than he is. And so that will mean that your speed is reduced, and this is where he picks up that extra speed. You can see his revs are a lot higher. That's because he's in third gear, you're in fourth gear. But what that means is when he hits the throttle here, he's on partial throttle. It's going to have more impact than when you're in fourth gear. So I think you probably should come down to third gear, and then the car is going to be more responsive, because there is a time when you can get back to full gas in between the two corners, just before the brush on the brakes, in between 10 and 11, and you're holding on to the brakes too long here. And these two things combined is why he's able to carry a lot more speed through into turn 11. So he's getting back to full throttle in third gear, coming out of 10. You're still in fourth and you don't get to full throttle, and then he's braking a lot less than you going into 11, maintains throttle, and then is back to throttle. See here he's at 50%, probably up to 60%. At this point you're at 100%, but that's because you've overslowed the car. You're 4 miles an hour down, and you actually have to back out of the throttle at this point where he's at full throttle. He then backs out while you're at full throttle, but the damage is done. There is that big speed differential. At this point, it's 3 miles an hour. So just be careful of that. Let's get it down into third gear and have a bit less braking to carry more speed. Get back to full throttle in between the two corners and just brush the brakes. Okay. And finally, turn 12. We can see there's a slight speed differential coming into here, but you brake a lot earlier and a lot harder than he does, so he's waiting to brake. And if we look, like, you're going to brakes well before where the tire wall starts. You are starting to go to brakes at this point. He starts to go to brakes at this point. May not seem like a lot. 36 feet, so 2 car lengths. He's braking 2 car lengths later, and your maximum brake pressure is before that, where the tire wall starts. His is after where the tire wall starts. So now you can brake a little later, a little less there, and we can see from the top that he's carrying a lot more speed in this phase of the corner, 8 miles an hour. So it looks like you're losing a lot of time to him here. I mean, it's a tenth at this point. But you managed to carry more speed through the first apex. We can see here you're actually 3 miles an hour faster. Not entirely sure why that is, because you're both off throttle and you're in the same gears. Whatever it is, I wouldn't change it. You pick up the time that you've lost into the middle of the corner. You actually are up slightly, and you get back to throttle mid-corner earlier. But then again, coming out of the corner, you're actually faster coming out of the corner, but then for whatever reason, he manages to pick up speed coming out of there, and by the time you get to the start-finish line, you are down 1/10 of a second. Let's see, half a tenth. It's not the end of the world, but we can see there is a 2 mile an hour speed differential going across the line. That's just going to carry through turn 1. Right, so here you're both full throttle, and there's that tire wall, and you can see here you're braking back here, and he is starting to brake pretty close to that tire wall. So let's just bring it down. I'd start off bringing it down a car length, and but it's 2 car lengths. So let's have a look at your lines into here. Again, he's down a little closer to the apex. Where you are is fine there. I think I don't have a problem with that. Here you are, you're carrying more speed with him to this point. Let's have a look and see if anything happens here. You've gone full throttle. You're just a fraction early here. Which just means he's pointing down the track a little more, so he's more efficient in terms of adding power. See, there's still quite a lot of steering lock for you there. Let's see how wide we go. Okay, for Saturday's race, you've got to be careful. They're going to be having track limits there. They'll talk about that in the drivers' meeting. I would imagine they're going to give a warning the first time, but if you repeatedly go wide of the white lines here, you will get a black flag. You can see Jace doesn't go quite as wide as you do. because he's slightly later into the corner, and that's made the difference. That's that half of a tenth down to the start-finish line. He's just straighter coming out of the corner. It's tiny, but each of these tiny little bits help. Let's have a look. When you get to the start-finish line, you're doing 96, he's doing 98. Okay, so that's that. It's actually really good. There is really just a couple of corners to sort out, and the big one is turn 1, so it's just going to be working on that, carrying more speed through there, and you knew that anyway. I hope this helps. See you out on track.